If you are a blockchain developer, listen carefully because this video may change your life. Because in this video, we're going to discuss how to build great dApps and how to do them quickly. And of course, this is something that we all want. All developers want to deliver great experiences to their users, and you want growth. You want to grow. You want your application to be used. You want your application to be liked. You want your application to really leave a mark on the user that the user really says, wow, this dApp is amazing. I can do so many things with this dApp that I could not have done before. This is what we all want. And really, success is different for many different people, but from a blockchain development standpoint, we all want users. We all want people to interact with our creation and for people to use our creation. And of course, we all have a bunch of ideas. Maybe you have an idea for NFT marketplace. Maybe you like NFTs. Maybe you love creating experiences that have to do with collectibles. Or maybe you want to create a wallet. You have some idea how the wallet experience can be better in crypto and you want to build your own wallet or DeFi dashboard or some kind of cross-chain bridge or some kind of game or exchange and so on and so forth. There are a lot of different markets, a lot of different niches you can take in crypto. And the thing that we have to understand, in order to build great dApps and to do them quickly, we have to understand what is the common denominator here. Because all of these different dApps, all of these different ideas, they need exactly the same things. They need to, number one, log in a user. Each and every dApp needs to do that. You have to log in a user and you have to get their transactions. Whether it is an exchange or a wallet or NFT marketplace, you need to have a user onboarding experience. When the user logs in, you need to see what transactions they did, what assets they have, what NFTs they have. Maybe you want to display that on a dashboard, or maybe you need to know that in order to do something on your backend. You need to fetch transactions, like we said, their past history. You need to fetch smart contract events. All dApps, or at least many dApps, need to do that. When something happens on chain in a smart contract, you need to get an alert. You need to get notified. Maybe somebody does a new trade in your exchange. Maybe somebody does a new bid on your NFT marketplace. So you need to be able to know that in real time. So all dApps normally also need some kind of real-time alert system. So when something happens on chain, your dApp can react to that. And also, in many cases, you need to build some kind of index in your dApp. When something happens on chain, you want to do something on some kind of data in your database and update that data so that you build an index that changes each time something happens on chain. It's very common to do that. And also your dApp needs to send transactions and interact with smart contracts. And if you really think about it, these are just a few features, but they really summarize 90+% of the dApps. Because 90+% of the dApp developers, they spend most of their time doing this. This is what dApp developers do today. They log in user, fetch transactions, and then they display some kind of interface, and then they allow user to do something. But this boilerplate, this very, very basic functionality is very difficult to do today. And I will show you the fastest way to do all of this in just a few hours. But the mistake many people make is that they reinvent the wheel. Each and every time you need to build a dApp, you start from scratch figuring out how to do all of this because all dApp need this. So everyone right now is reinventing the wheel. Everyone is doing exactly the same things just to get started. And normally, people start by connecting to an RPC node. And this is the biggest mistake you'll ever make. When you start your dApp and when you start your project by thinking, all right, let's connect to an RPC node and let's fetch some data and let's build infrastructure around it. But what you quickly realize when you build around an RPC node is that RPC nodes are very horrible. They're very primitive, low-level tech. What does it mean? It means that it's very, very close to the hardware, very, very close to the actual blockchain. It means that it cannot give you a lot. It's a horrible database. You cannot query it. You cannot filter it. If you have some kind of interesting query, let's say that you have an NFT marketplace and you want to know the user that had the most volume in your NFT marketplace during the past 3 weeks, it's impossible to ask that from a node because a node is not a database. You cannot query the Ethereum, Binance, or MATIC blockchain by using a node. It will never work. You cannot do filtering nor aggregation. And of course, in order to make something interesting, some kind of interesting application around an RPC node, you have to build a lot. So around an RPC node, when you use an RPC node, you have to build an API. You have to verify signatures. Whenever somebody logs into your app, you have to have a backend that verifies that the user actually signed with their wallet. Everyone is doing this on their own right now, although each and every app needs this. You need to figure out how to do sockets, how to do real-time communication. Let's say you have a real-time game, you have a real-time exchange, you have some kind of other real-time use case. You yourself have to figure out how to do that. You yourself have to figure out how to do an API on top of your RPC node, because your RPC node is very basic. It cannot do anything basically. So you have to build the whole tech stack around your RPC node so that your front end can actually get valuable information about your app. You need to build up a database. When somebody logs in, you need to put them in the database. You have to verify their signature. You have to sync their token balances, their NFT balances. All of that you have to keep in sync. You have to index a lot of things. For example, let's say you want to know all the NFTs that a user has. You cannot just ask it from a node. The node does not know that. The node can tell you if you ask a specific NFT if the user has, but to tell you all NFTs they have, the node cannot tell you that. You have to index the blockchain. You have to go through all of their transactions, see which NFTs they received and not. You have to sync transactions. You have to sync smart contracts. So as you can see, just to get going, just to move towards your greatness, just to take the first steps towards victory, you have to spend months and months and months building just to get off the ground. And all ideas need that. All different use cases need to do exactly the same thing. They all need to figure this out before they can even start. And let's say you have started creating this monster, this huge infrastructure. And what happens then? Well, you have to provision the infrastructure, provision the databases, provision everything. Then you have to maintain it, because your users will use it more and more and more. And you have to scale it yourself. You will have a lot of bugs when you build it for the first time, because it's quite complicated system. So for you to build it without bugs, it's very unlikely. You will probably have a lot of bugs in the beginning. And of course, this is not something that you want to do. This is not something that you want to be doing when your mission, when your real time should be spent serving the user. Do you think the user cares what kind of infrastructure you have? The user does not care. The user only cares, is the DApp useful or not? So this is a big problem. And of course, when you're building in this fashion, when you have this huge infrastructure around your RPC node, you realize that this leads to slow iterations. If you have a new idea and you want to test a new thing, maybe you want to test a new feature, it's very difficult for you to do. Why? Because you have this monster of infrastructure that you have to maintain, and you have to now figure out how to get a new feature into this infrastructure. So it's going to take a lot of time. It's difficult to test. Why? Because it's a mess. Normally this infrastructure becomes a mess very, very quickly. It's long time to go to market. When you get an idea, you have to spend up to 6 months just building the basics so you can show the user something. And of course, this at the end of the day leads to increased failure rate. It leads to huge failure rate. Why? Because you cannot try different ideas quickly. You have to spend a lot of time just building the basics that you can show your user what you've built. And in many cases, when you show your user what you built, the user does not care. It is a problem in startups. It's a problem when you have a new project that you want to go and you want to show the user your idea quickly. So you can quickly see, does the user care? Does the user like it? Or they don't like it? They don't care. And if you quickly can show them your idea and they don't care, perfect. Then you build another idea. You try something else until you find the idea that actually explodes and makes you very successful and you achieve greatness. But when you have this slow process of building, you will most likely fail because it takes so much time for you to even get to a point where you can show something to the user. So this is horrible. The way that most DApp developers build in this way is very, very bad, and that's why they most likely fail. And it's something that we want to avoid, and this is why you're watching this video. So the solution, of course, is that we don't build like this. This is not how DApp development should be done in 2021 and ahead. Absolutely not. Because this is basically, the comparison here is that imagine you want to build a website. You want to build a website, and for you to do that, you have to talk to the CPU. You have to talk to the hardware. How long time would it take for you to build a website if this is the level of tech stack that you have to work with? This is the level of primitive technology you have to work with. CPU is amazing, but CPU is not something that the average developer, web developer should even know about or touch or see. The same way with RPC node and this low-level blockchain tech. You as a DApp developer, you should not even touch it. You should not even experience it. But imagine if there was a packaged solution with all of this already done, a packaged server solution that you can just, with one click, you can launch a server, and this server already has all of this. All of this that you would normally be building yourself. All of this that you would normally be building on your own, in your own server. Like for example, API, database, verifying signature, and so on and so forth. What if that was possible? What if you already had all of this pre-packaged? What if there was an SDK that you can easily use in JavaScript, in Unity game engine, in iOS, in Android, with all of this already figured out and all of these features are already off the shelf? What if that was possible? What if there existed this technology? And of course, I'm here to tell you that yes, indeed, we do have this technology. This is the Moralis server, and this is the Moralis SDK. And if you know Firebase from the traditional web development and mobile development, if you've used Firebase, then you will quickly understand what Moralis server is. Because Moralis is the Firebase of crypto. Meaning that when you use Moralis, the only thing you have to do to get started is to sign up on Moralis and you launch a server. With one click, you launch a server. And this server already has all of these crypto features pre-configured. For example, to fetch transactions, to watch the blockchain, to update everything in real time. I will demonstrate it to you how it works and how easy it is. But you launch a server, you initialize the SDK in your application, and then you can start using the SDK. So for example, if you want to log in a user, as you can see, it is just one line of code. One line of code to log in a user, Moralis Web3.authenticate. When you do that, your user is already logged in. And this is the power of Moralis. This is the power of the easiness of Moralis. And as soon as the user is logged in, as soon as this is done, all user information is instantly available in Moralis server database. What do I mean by that? Well, Moralis gives you a database from instantly, from when you log in, from when you start using it. And so, as you can see right here, when the user logs in your Moralis database, we already put all the information about the user. Let me zoom in a bit. But as you can see, you have, for example, all of their NFT transactions, all of their NFT, all of their token transactions, all of their normal transactions, native ETH transactions, all of their balances you have here already. And if the address that the user is logged in with, if that address is used on different blockchains, let's say that the user is also active on MATIC and Binance chain with the same address, then it will also show up here. So with one line of code, you just wrote one line of code and already you know everything about the user. You know everything about the user on all different blockchains that this user address is active on. How insane is that? Just think for a moment what kind of infrastructure you would have to build if you are to get all of this, for example, their NFTs, for example, their tokens, and so on and so forth, if you have to do this from scratch. Think about it. So you get all of this in the database, and the great thing with Moralis database is that it's auto-updating. It's auto-updating, meaning that if the user moves their assets on chain, let's say that the user logs in and then they move their NFTs and they move their tokens, this database will update in real time. You don't have to think about anything. You just wrote one line of code and you have a database with everything about the user, all their transactions, assets on all blockchains, and when the user moves their assets, it's automatically updated in the database and you can watch for these updates. I will soon show you how to do it. So auto-updating database is insane. It's insane improvement of the life quality of the average crypto developer. I think already just using this tool, your life is completely changed. But let me show you how easy it is to read the database, because we also ensure that when you use Moralis, you can not only easily get data into database, like I showed you, it's just one line of code to log in the user and you have everything, but also to read the database. So to get the transactions of the user, you just write like this, transactions equal to Moralis Web3 account get transactions, and that's the one line of code. To get the balance, for example, MATIC balance or Ethereum balance or Binance chain balance, one line of code. To get ERC20 balances, one line of code. To get NFT balances, one line of code. And so these are the queries that you can use in order to read info about the user from the blockchain. From the database. And the database is updated when things are updated on the blockchain. Now, something you have to understand is that this is a real database, which means that you can do any query you want. These queries I showed you here, these are prepared queries that we give you from scratch. But if you want, you can do any query you like. You can filter, you can sort, you can really do anything you want with a querying language. It's very, very easy. So with one line of code, you remember, with one line of code, we were able to log in a user, one line of code. With 4 additional lines of code, we now have all the information about the user. So this means that with just 5 lines of code, we've built a wallet. We've basically built a dashboard for the user, that the user can log in and see all their assets. They can see all of their tokens, all of their NFTs, all of their ETH, all of their MATIC, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is something that would normally take months and months to build. Just think about how you would do it otherwise. How you would build something that is showing all the assets of the user and it's updating in real time. When the user moves, it's updating in real time. And with Moralis, you just need 5 lines of code to get that data. So this is something that, of course, saves you a bunch of time. It ensures that you can prototype quickly, you can build ideas quickly, you can try more things, you can be more successful as a developer, because all of this mundane boilerplate work that all dApps have to do, it's taken care of for you. This is something that we do full time, which means that we do it in a way that is proper, which means that we do it in a way that is tested. If you are to do something like that yourself, imagine all the bugs, all the maintenance, and so on and so forth that you will have to face yourself. So by just looking at the features I explained to you now, you quickly see that Moralis is a no-brainer for any blockchain project. And please remember what I told you. This database that we give you, this Moralis database, it is a MongoDB database, which means that you can query anything you want from it. It means that you're not really restricted to anything in terms of what you can find, what you can aggregate. You can run aggregation, you can run filtering. And here's an example where we're looking for a player with a certain name. You can look for users that did certain transactions during some specific time period. It's very possible because it's MongoDB. You can do anything you want. For example, if you have an NFT game and you want to find the user that did spend the most of your in-game currency during the past 60 minutes, you can do that easily with a query. And most importantly, you can subscribe to real-time events like this, and we set up all the socket connections for you. What do I mean? As you can see, here we set up a query on a specific table in the database, like this. So here we specify the table in the database, and we do query.subscribe. As soon as something changes in this table in the database, we send you a socket signal. And this can be done from a website. So your website can subscribe to real-time updates in your database. Your mobile app can subscribe in the iOS or Android SDK. You can subscribe to real-time updates. Your Unity game can subscribe to real-time updates. So as you can see, this is powerful. This is powerful like hell. I mean, I cannot describe it in any other way. Imagine the time it would take for you to set up sockets, connections, disconnections, timeouts, all of that. Here, you just write one line of code to tell Moralis which table you want to watch, which table name you want to watch in your database, and then one line of code to turn on the query. 2 lines of code, 5 seconds, versus imagine how much time you would spend normally do something like this to set up real-time alerts to your front end whenever something happens on chain, whenever something happens in your database. Unlimited power, guys. What can I say? I can only say this image, unlimited power that we're seeing demonstrated right here. Now, another important thing is, of course, to be able to index smart contracts and to be able to know when something happens in a smart contract. And Moralis can easily do that because you can provide Moralis with the event topic. You know that when you have smart contracts on Ethereum or on Binance or on MATIC, these smart contracts can have events, and each event has a topic, and you can give that topic to Moralis server. Is very easy to do, and Moralis will sync all the past events of that particular topic that happened on chain. So you will get it in your database so that you can then query it, or you can do filtering, aggregation, you can do calculations on it, and so on and so forth. And also, whenever a new event happens with this topic, you will be getting a real-time alert, because also this information will be added to your database in real time. And you can easily set up socket notifications, like I told you, with 2 lines of code, like we just saw in the previous slide. So you can easily update your database when a new smart contract event fires. Then you can easily see it in your code, see it in your database, and you can do some calculations, and maybe you can update some value in your database. This is normally what people right now use subgraphs for, but subgraphs, It's a great tech, but it's too complicated. I mean, why should you be doing subgraph when you can do this with 2 lines of code? And I highly encourage you to go to docs.moralis.io because we have amazing documentation. As you will see, for example, this documentation for syncing smart contract events, we have a lot of information, we have a lot of videos, we show you practically how to do different things, and we put a lot of time and a lot of resources in ensuring that we have the best docs in this industry. So if you want to build something, check out our docs at docs.moralis.io and also join our Discord. You can find the link below in the description to join Discord because we will also help you ourselves. We will look at your code, we'll check your code, and we will ensure that your DApp succeeds. And the best way to ensure that is to use Moralis. Now, let's go to the second part, and that is to send assets. You know that we've been discussing how to read data from the blockchain, how to get real-time alerts from the blockchain, how to know when something happens on chain, how to set up everything with just a few lines of code. And now let's talk about how to send assets. Because one of the things that I really did not like when I started to create dApps is how complicated it was just to send an ERC20 transaction. You know that in order to send ERC20, you have to provide ABI of the smart contract. This is completely unnecessary when we do have tools like Moralis that make it so easy, that make anyone able to send any asset on the blockchain with just 1 line of code like this. Look here. In order to send ETH, MATIC or Binance chain, I write moralis.transfer and I put in some options, like for example, the amount, the receiver, and that's it. If I want to send an ERC20, I don't have to specify any ABI, or I don't need to know anything about how this works under the hood, because the problem with not using Moralis is that you need to know how ERC20s work under the hood. In many cases, that's unnecessary thing for people to get into when they just want to send a transaction, when you just have ideas you want to deliver to the user. It's kind of like trying to understand how the CPU works when you just want to build a website. It's not something you should be doing. You should just focus on the website, build the experience. So the same thing is here. 1 line of code, moralis.transfer, and you have some options here, for example, the amount, the receiver, and the contract address, and NFTs in the same way, just 1 line of code, moralis.transfer with a few options, like for example, the receiver, contract address, and token ID. Very simple. This is how blockchain development should be. And as you can see, Moralis makes blockchain development as easy as web development. Our whole motto is that Web 2 and Web 3 should be equally easy. If you are a web developer, you should be able to use Moralis as you're using your normal web tools. That's one motto. Another motto we have is 1 line of code. Whenever you want to do something, there's 1 line of code for that. 1 line of code for that. You want to log in a user and get all their transactions, NFTs, balances, and tokens, 1 line of code. You want to send an asset, 1 line of code. You want to subscribe to real-time alerts on the blockchain, 1 line of code. This is our motto. When you come to Moralis, everything is 1 line of code. And that's how it should be, of course, because it's all about the tools. What kind of tools we have, because the better tools we have, the more we can achieve. Look here, without Moralis, developers are using very primitive tools. You're using basically some stone hammer, some very basic tools. And what can you build? You cannot build a lot. You can build a mud hut. So when you have a bit more advanced tools, like for example, a tractor, excavator, where you don't have to care about these details, when you don't have to care about the nitty-gritty, you just push a button and the excavator takes up the earth, it takes up all of this mud. This is how Moralis ensures that you can deliver, because by having complicated tools, by having more sophisticated tools, you can build sophisticated things, because you don't have to worry about how you will pick up the dirt from the ground. Okay, this is something that you really have to think about when you are doing these primitive tools, when you're using primitive tools. Just like when you are using something that is not Moralis, for example, you're using RPC node, you have to worry yourself how to do all of this madness. Instead, you could just use Moralis, where we take care of all of that for you. And you focus on the big picture, and you can really build so much more complicated things, and so much more advanced things, and so much more user-friendly things by focusing on them. You should not be focusing on infrastructure. It's a waste of time. Now, right now, we've discussed most of these features that we outlined in the beginning. You remember when we discussed these ideas, and we said that all of these ideas, they need the same things. They need to log in user, fetch balances, fetch transactions, fetch smart contracts, and be able to know things in real time and send transactions and build indexes. Well, we have already discussed that, how to log in user. So you know this already. It's just a few lines of code to do anything. But there is more. I love this. Let me know if you've seen this infomercial. But wait, there is more. There is more. There is a lot more. For example, Moralis plugins. we do have a bunch of plugins coming up, a bunch of plugins. And for example, you want to have fiat on-ramp into your app, one line of code, moralis.plugins.fiat.buy, and you can now buy crypto. Your users can buy crypto with credit card straight from your app with one line of code. This is how easy it is. This is the power of Moralis. And more plugins are launching this month in September, and we're gonna do a lot, guys. For example, it's gonna be one line of code to do swaps, to swap from one asset to another. So it's gonna be moralis.plugins.swap, and you can swap anything to anything. It's amazing. It is amazing, actually. So this is something that is coming very, very soon, and it will make the life of all developers so much easier. So we're very, very looking forward to that and showing you that. And it is something that we focus a lot on, to make the plugins as easy as possible to create, but also use. And you can create your own plugins for Moralis very, very soon. Now, something we haven't discussed yet, we mentioned it a bit, but Moralis is cross-chain by default. What does it mean? It means that when your user logs in, you get all the information about the user on Ethereum, Binance Chain, Polygon, and so on and so forth. And when something happens on chain, Moralis knows it already on all the blockchains. You get real-time alerts, which means that your app becomes chain agnostic. Your app works on all blockchains. If you want to launch your app on a new blockchain, you don't have to do anything because Moralis already supports that. You don't have to think about that at all. So in order to ensure that your app is future-proof, you have to use Moralis. Imagine you build your app right now on Ethereum or Binance Chain or Polygon, and tomorrow Solana becomes big. How do you go to Solana? You cannot. You have to start from scratch. But if you use Moralis, you don't have to start from scratch because Moralis supports all the blockchains. Right now we do support this fully. And next for us is Solana. So this is how Moralis works. That all of the different blockchains are right here on the bottom level, on the bottom layer. And then you have Moralis server that is able to connect to all of them and able to fetch all of the information from all of them. And you get a unified cross-chain SDK. Because even on Solana, even on Elrond, even on all of these non-EVM compatible blockchains, you still need the same things. You still need to log in a user to fetch transactions, to get real-time alerts, to send transactions. So Moralis is going to have exactly the same interface, exactly the same SDK for all of them. For example, to get transactions from Solana, Elrond, MATIC, Ethereum is going to be this one line of code. Even if we add new blockchains. Imagine tomorrow there is a completely new blockchain that we don't even know about today. And how do you ensure that your app works on that blockchain? Well, using Moralis, you know it's going to work on that blockchain because Moralis will integrate it and Moralis will have it automatically. And you don't have to change anything because this line of code will fetch user transactions even on that blockchain. So this is the power of abstraction because Moralis abstracts away. Moralis abstracts away all of the blockchains. Just like when you buy a computer and you use Windows operating system, you're not worried that tomorrow there's going to be a new printer or a new screen or a new CPU or a new GPU. You're not worried that your Windows machine will not be able to support new hardware because you know that Windows works with all of them. And even if there's a new hardware, new printer, new screen in the future, your Windows operating system will know how to handle that. The same is with Moralis. In that sense, you can think about Moralis kind of like an operating system on top of the different blockchains because Moralis views the different blockchains kind of like a printer. Like, oh, it's a new printer, it's a new screen, it's a new GPU, a new CPU. You as a developer, you don't care about that. You just use Moralis SDK because Moralis SDK is going to be the same no matter which blockchain comes in the future, no matter which blockchain is popular today or tomorrow. Because we as developers, the only thing we care about is the user. Does the user use the app? Is the user happy? Is the user coming back? Is the user spending money on our app? Is the user transacting using our app? And then which blockchain is used under the hood does not matter. At the end of the day, it shouldn't matter. So that's why we are taking this a chain agnostic cross-chain approach, and you know that when you build on Moralis, it's gonna work cross-chain, and you don't have to worry about picking the wrong blockchain because you build on Moralis, it's instantly available on all future chains. So Moralis already now syncs all chains by default that we support, Solana and Elrond coming up next, and using your DAPP, using Moralis, you know that your DAPP is future-proof, no matter which blockchain is popular tomorrow. So we already discussed this. Without Moralis, you're using primitive tools and you can build primitive things. With Moralis, you use sophisticated tools that are easy to use and you can build sophisticated things. Very important. Finally, guys, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are watching this on our YouTube channel, fantastic, do subscribe. As you can see, we have a lot of different tutorials, how to clone Rarible, how to clone Etherscan, how to clone Zerion, a bunch of different tutorials on different topics, a bunch of different playlists, and we push content as much as possible. Almost each and every day there is a new tutorial. So if you want to become a better blockchain developer, subscribe to Moralis Web3 and join our Discord, because our whole goal with Discord is that you should be wowed. You come to Discord and you have any question, you have any problem, we're there to help. We're there to look at your code. We're there to help you as much as possible. So please join our Discord by going to moralis.io/mage, because Moralis and Moralis community, it's called Moralis DAO, okay? Moralis DAO is our community. And when you join, you become a Moralis mage. You become a Moralis fully equipped mage, because you have the power. You have the power of Moralis, you can build great things, and that's why you become a Moralis mage. So join us at moralis.io/mage. You can ask anything you want. And most importantly, guys, I hope you learned something. I hope you now are a bit better developer. I hope you now understand how to build great dApps quickly, how to ensure that your app succeeds, how to ensure that your app just grows and grows and grows, and how to ensure that you are where you think you should be in your mind, because you have a future about yourself in a few years. You have a picture about yourself in the future. You have a picture where your project will be in the future. We're here to ensure that you reach that goal, that you reach that destination, that you actually build the DAPP you want. You reach the mass adoption, world adoption that you desire. So your homework is to go to moralis.io, sign up, and build your first DAPP. How do you do that? You go to documentation right here. You start reading. Most importantly, if you go here to how to build a simple DAPP in 3 minutes, you can follow this guide. Do it. If you want to build a game, you see here how to build a game with Moralis. If you want to start binary chain programming, you can click here and you can start binary chain programming. We will be adding more guides here. Check out our YouTube channel. Also, go to moralis.io/mage, because here's where Discord is. So you will get an email on Discord, you will become a Moralis mage, and I'll see you all very, very soon, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Go use Moralis, go build that DAPP, and goodbye, guys. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.